Yes, hello, welcome back to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. I will be reviewing round two of the National Rugby League season for 2026. And what a round of football it was. Well, from a tipping, I got 6 out of 8. And I'll fucking take that any day of the week, especially earlier on in the season. I find it a much harder to tip in the opening 10 rounds of the season. So 6 out of 8, I'm happy with that. But we will analyse some games, uh, deep dive into some games where it went right and wrong for certain sides over the round. Let's start now at the Broncos and the Parramatta Eels. Now, normally I do the Rugby League review of the rounds on Tuesdays, but I thought today I went to work and it was bucketing with rain, absolutely torrential rain. Couldn't mow lawns and do hedges today. So I came home and I thought, look, I'll do the review now because I'm very excited and very rattled at the same time as a Manly fan, I should say, over the round. So I thought I'd release the review today. Let's start on the Thursday night game, which was 8 o'clock between the Brisbane Broncos and the Parramatta Eels at Suncorp Stadium. So when Brisbane were 20 points to 4 up, I think would be safe to say that they would have been $1.10 favourites to win. They had all the momentum. And when Payne Haas crossed for that try from that beautiful pass of Patrick Carrigan, then and there was no Parramatta player in sight. For me, that was, shut the gates. It's game over. How Parramatta found a way to come back and win. You've got to give credit to them. They didn't give up. They started horribly. All the momentum was against them. I just thought that Isaiah Iongi, without him, Parramatta don't look close to winning this game. I thought Jonah Pezzett was absolutely fantastic, especially in that second half. Mitchell Moses did his thing. Josh Adokar, the energy he brings in from the wing. They really missed his presence last week against the Melbourne Storm in Melbourne. And it's not just his speed and his try-scoring ability when we talk about Josh Adokar. It's the way in which he's able to bring the team together when under pressure. I think he's got this beautiful and underrated natural ability of being able to make sure that the team, refocuses. If I was a coach of a rugby league team and Josh Adokar was in my side, it sounds absolutely crazy, but I would strongly consider putting him as a captain of a football team. Just he's such a leader from the winger, from that wing spot, and he's made mistakes off the field. But I also believe that those sort of mistakes that certain players can make can actually create a leader. You talk about Mitch Barnett and how poor his discipline was at Newcastle. Now look at him; he's one of the best leaders in the game at the Warriors. Now signed with the Broncos for 2 years from 2027 onwards. Josh Adokar, for me, he's made mistakes off the field, but there's just this you can tell that the players will play for him, and he's got this natural leadership off the wing, the energy he can bring. Would he be my first pick? It depends on the other players you've got. But I remember Jesse Bromwich, he for Melbourne, he had some off-field dramas about 8 or 9 years ago. And that, for me, that was a significant moment of his career because he came back as a different player, more of a leader, learning from those mistakes. And I genuinely believe that Josh Adokar, if he doesn't play in this game, then I think Brisbane win as well. I think you've got to give credit to the kicking game of both Moses and Pezzett. Junior Paulo was good. And, we've got to remember too with Parramatta, they did this without Jermaine Hopgood, which in my opinion is one of their best players and most important players. You could tell his presence was missing in defence in the first half, but you've got to give credit to Parramatta. They 20 points to 4 down. It's probably equivalent to being down by maybe 10 or 12 points 10, 13, 15 years ago in rugby league. It's not as big as it's a lot easier now to come back than it was back then. And I think that's shown through the 6 again rule. Parramatta, you can tell that watching this game, you could tell that they had done their homework in pre-season to not give up no matter what the scoreline is, just to keep playing. Now, I've touched on some players for Parramatta, but I've got written down here that for me, and we talked about Dylan Walker in the off season. I had a podcast talking about the best number 14s in NRL history from 1998 onwards. And I'm pretty sure my number one was Craig Wing, actually, but number two was Dylan Walker. From the way in which he can come on the field and change the momentum, change the style of football in attack that Parramatta play with. And I think he did a phenomenal job in this game when he came on. He was absolutely sensational. And I've spoken on the podcast over the summer about Dylan Walker in terms of, for me, in my opinion, he must have a really high IQ when it comes to rugby league. I think he must be on the sidelines watching from the bench, trying to analyse how he can change the game in attack. It's all good to do drills and preseason training and whatnot, but you've got to use your brain and you've got to be smart with your choices, the choices you make, your passing selections, the certain time in the game. And he's 9 times out of 10, he just does a great job. It wasn't until Dylan Walker moved to the Parramatta Eels from the Warriors with an immediate release early last year after round 4. It wasn't until Dylan Walker came to the side where you noticed their attack shifted to a more free-flowing attack, where at times Parramatta would play from edge to edge. They'd shift it one side, shift it back to the other. But it was actually dismantling the opposition defences through the not knowing what Dylan Walker would do, whether he'd find a decoy runner, whether he'd pop it in the inside, whether he'd do a cutout pass, or he's actually got a bit of a good short kicking game as well, which we saw a couple of times last year. He's just got this natural ability to for the defender to question exactly what he's going to do at a certain time. And I think, in my opinion, Dylan Walker was the most important player alongside Josh Addo-Carr in this game. I thought Jordan Samrani did really well too. I mean, we have to remember a day before this game kicked off Wednesday last week, Will Penasini was ruled out. And I thought in a losing side against the Melbourne Storm, Will Penasini was, in my mind, one of their better players in that game. He looked dangerous in attack. He looks like he's put on size over the off-season. In my opinion, Parramatta were absolutely sensational to come back in this game. Now, if you're both sides, if you're the head coaches of both teams, you probably walk out of this game really disappointed as well. Parramatta, Jason Rolls would have been very happy and he'd take the 2 points, but he would have been really, really concerned that, of their defence last week against Melbourne, but now they've allowed another side 32 points in. So their defence is a huge concern. They need to fix that up because they might win the occasional game like that in season 2026, but they won't want to rely on winning games like that. They have to fix up their defence massively. And when Jermaine Hopgood comes into the side, I genuinely believe that he needs to move to lock forward because Jack DeBellin, to me, did really well over the weekend, but I think he's probably better off coming from the bench. He's 33 years old, or starting him at front row, or shift Jack Williams back to front row. Jermaine Hopgood, in my opinion, he's just a number 13. Really, really talented player, but he's just a lock forward, an 80-minute lock forward with so much skill. He reminds me of an Isaiah Yeo, Cameron Murray, Victor Radley, with his passing selections, with his but I can understand it too. They got Dylan Walker that they want to come on to play as a ball playing lock forward when he comes on, but whether or not you then move Hopgood to prop when that happens. But in saying that, Parramatta, congratulations to the supporters because 20 points to 4 down, fucking hell. Like you think there would have been fans that would have turned the TV off, in my opinion. Let's touch on the Broncos. Yeah, when Payne Haas scored, I thought, shut the gate. It's all over. Reece Walsh, for me, he had some moments, but he's playing like a player that's a bit under pressure in terms of the form he had in the final series last year was incredible. It's something we haven't seen much of. And I don't know if we'll see it again, to be completely honest with you. We will see consistent glimpses of brilliance in Reece Walsh's game. But whether or not we'll see that form again, we're talking about the best ever grand final performance in NRL history. We're talking about without that individual player in its side, they don't get to a grand final, let alone win the comp. We're talking about such a rare form. Can he get back to that? That's the question. But he's playing like a player that is playing with expectation too, when that's probably the wrong expectation to have going into games. He needs to realize the realization. He needs to realize the fact is he needs to simplify his game. He needs to sit there and simplify his game. He needs to catch the ball, pass the ball, let the it sounds simple, but simplify the game. Like catch the fucking bombs. Catch the bombs. Because we're talking about the World Club Challenge and round one and the amount of bombs he's dropped and errors he's made where his passing selections will not find the player. It'll find the touchline. So simplify the shit out of his game and rebuild your game. Start from back to game plan A and make your way and build up your form to get back to where you were in that grand final. I won't touch too much on Brisbane because personally I believe they'll be back. But at the end of the day, I do like that Ezra Mann started, but in saying that, his defense was shocking. Absolutely woeful. And he's always struggled defensively, Ezra Mann, but this game, the Eels absolutely targeted that edge. And I felt sorry for him by the end of the game because it was just smart football to keep targeting at that edge that he defended on. I thought Karapani, fuck, he's a good player. Just to get them out of trouble. I've never overly tried to read his game, tried to read what I haven't really analysed much of Karapani, but the other night in a losing side, I thought he was pretty good. Corey Pakes, I like him starting at number 9, and I love Ben Hunt coming on as a 14. Look, it didn't work for them the other night, but they'll be back, Brisbane. Let's all remember it's round 2. It's round 2. We have a long way to go. What is it, 20, 22, 23 games for every side to play for the rest of the year? They'll be back, but they need to simplify their game, and they need to do it now. They got Melbourne next week. I'm pretty sure that's Friday night football, and that's going to be a phenomenal game of rugby league. But they need to simplify their rugby league, and they need to do it next week. Let's go to the next game, the Warriors over the Raiders. Now, I tipped Broncos in that game. I got that one wrong. I tipped the Warriors in this game, which I was happy with. For me, it was a toss of the coin, and I'll be completely honest with you. If Josh Papali'i was playing for Canberra, I reckon I probably would have tipped Canberra. Whether or not that would have made the difference, probably not, looking at the scoreboard. I love the Warriors CEO there, Cameron George. Look, is it the most professional look? Probably not, but his passion, just to Joe Tarpany and then bang, off you go. I don't know. I loved it, watching it. I think good on him. Like, it's great to see a CEO that is clearly a diehard supporter and clearly loves the club and is passionate. So good on him. I thought the Warriors were absolutely fantastic in this game. Tanner Boyd, we touched on Tanner Boyd on this podcast over the off-season. We touched on how his kicking game is underrated, and he's quite an underrated player. And he's been phenomenal for the Warriors the last couple of weeks. For Harris Tavita to come off, and they shifted a few players here and there. I thought they were fantastic. Kurt Capewell got ruled out before the game with a hamstring injury, I think it was. I thought Leka Halasima really stood up. For me, the best player and the most important player of this game was Jackson Ford. He's been starting at front row the last couple of weeks, and I thought he was their best player last week, and I think he was their best player this week. This guy, Jackson Ford, I genuinely didn't know if he'd get a start. At the beginning of the season, I couldn't find a spot for him in the 17 for the Warriors. But since Mitch Barnett was actually expected to return for this game, I dare say he'll probably be back for round 3. But what Jackson Ford was able to do in this game was immense. He showed immense leadership. He showed just his meters, his leg drive, the way in which he could just get the Warriors out of trouble. Special mention to Shans Nickel-Clockstadt too, who moved to the 5'8" position when Harris Tavita, I think he got concussed, and I thought when Shans moved to 5'8", they looked like a better side. Tane Tuapiki did well when he came on. Roger Tuafazashek, a couple of errors I don't think he should have made. 9 times out of 10 he catches those. Sure, the passes weren't great, but I thought the Warriors did a good job in this game. I've got to say, Wade Egan was very impressive. I love his creativity of dummy half. He's got this natural ability to come up with quick ruck speed just through his passing selections, knowing who to pass it to. Whether you use your backs in a set or use your forwards, he's got this really good this way of identifying what the sets need to be at the certain time of the game. And I was watching this game closely, and a lot of the decision making in attack normally comes from your halves. But with Luke Metcalf being out, I watched this game really closely and Wade Egan's game closely. A lot of the decision making, what they were to do in attack, came off him. And I thought his decision making, creating that ruck speed in the middle of the field for the Warriors, knowing when to play the game. For me, for an example of this, this game was pouring, absolutely soaking wet. But he didn't play conservative football as a dummy half. He was happy to make sure that the players played football and enjoyed playing their football at the same time. There wasn't just one up Warriors classic football of one up in the rain, this and that. They were happy to pass the football, which over the years in wet weather football, we haven't seen the Warriors overly play like that. They play very almost too simple in terms of just catch, pass, run. There's a difference between simplifying your game and then really just playing conservative football where you're not really getting anywhere, getting out of trouble. So for me, the Warriors, I thought Wade Egan, for me, was their key player in this. I think he's a really, really underrated dummy half, and it was great to see Sam Healey come on as well. Fuck, he's a good player. His service from dummy half is absolutely sensational. I just thought the Warriors were really good in this game. I thought Leka Halasima, such a talent. He's just phenomenal. Congratulations to the Warriors fans, because that's 2 from 2. And then you've got Newcastle next week. Pretty sure that's Sunday afternoon football. I'll have to double check, but you've got the Knights next week, and that is without Kalen Ponga and Dylan Brown. So a good opportunity for the Warriors to go for 3 from 3. Let's touch on the next game, the Roosters and the Rabbitohs. Congratulations to Alex Johnston. Historical moment in rugby league history. That was absolutely sensational. I was watching it with my wife, and she was tearing up when all the fans ran onto the field. And I've got to say, I didn't tear up, but I was just sort of, it's those moments where you just watch it and go, yeah, I'll never forget this moment. I'll never forget where I was at the time watching Alex Johnston break the record. It was special for everybody involved in rugby league. And, the best thing about this game was, sure, you've got the result, and for the Roosters, they played really well. But, when Alex Johnston scored, the first person to come on from the crowd was a Roosters fan to hug him. So I found that really, really cool. These two arch rivals back from, 1908. The fans hate each other, the clubs hate each other, yet the first person to come on to celebrate Alex Johnston's try from the crowd was a Roosters fan. So it goes to show, at the end of the day, it really is just a game of football. And the beautiful thing about this game is how it can bring a community together. And that's what was shown the other night. It was absolutely fantastic. Reminded me of why rugby league is important for many, many lives in this country. It was fantastic. When Alex Johnston scored and the crowd came on, at the time, I think it was 18 points to 16. Latrell had a kick to come, which he converted after, the 15-minute break, and the players came back on. But, for me, it was a huge concern that the game had to pour. Like, I'm glad it did, but I was just watching it closely live, and the Rabbitohs were up. Like, they were up and about, but they were emotionally, a lot was happening in the sheds. They were all congratulating him. They all looked pumped. They were laughing. They were happy, but they also, Wayne Bennett came in, and I haven't seen him that animated since before the 2021 grand final, when he was talking to South Sydney at Suncorp Stadium against that game against Penrith. He got quite animated before kickoff in that game. They ended up losing that grand final by 2 points, but he was very animated. Now he was fucking barking orders, barking instructions to refocus. Now I can understand why Wayne Bennett didn't want people to come on the field. He was coming from a coach's perspective, as Rabbitohs are a momentum side, and he felt that the momentum would stop, which it clearly did, and he was correct. I think deep down, Wayne Bennett was very happy for Alex Johnston, and that all of that happened. He would have been happy about that, but in saying that, I just think it ruined the momentum, and I think there was a shot of the South Sydney Rabbitohs players in the sheds, and then a shot of the Roosters players in the sheds, and the Roosters players were sitting down, just having water, just relaxing, just reviewing where that went wrong. They looked really calm. The Souths were sort of a bit nervous, up and about, a lot going through, a lot of emotion running through the room, which wasn't a bad thing, and you can't blame them for. Like, if I'm a Rabbitohs fan, I'm watching this game, I can't blame them for that loss. You probably walk away more happy than you would in a win, which is, if you're there, if you're at the Sydney Football Stadium and you lose a game, but you run on the field and be part of history, you never forget in that moment. You probably forget about the win in round 2, 2026, if they were to win it. But you wouldn't forget about that moment. So for me, I think every single fan left that stadium being really happy, which was such a unique experience watching on TV. Very jealous I wasn't there, I've got to say. I think if I was still living in Sydney, I would have gone to that game. Just to be a part of history. And congratulations to all the fans. Everyone behaved themselves. Everyone got off after 15 minutes and the game continued. There was no bullshit behaviour. It kept going, and it was great to see. Absolutely fantastic to see. Look, Latrell Mitchell was phenomenal in this game. I thought David Fifita was absolutely fantastic. He's really playing for his teammates and for Wayne Bennett. Cameron Murray was so strong, especially in defence. The thing about Cameron Murray is he's like Isaiah Yeo. That I can't split those two players. And I know Yeo's achieved a lot more in his career, but the way in which Cameron Murray can just know when to pass it, but also know when he needs to just take it up and run 15 metres to just carry momentum, to create that ruck speed. I just thought he's experienced now, Cameron Murray. I'm going to say he made his debut back in 2018, and you're talking. He played with the likes of Greg Inglis, Sam Burgess as a young fella coming through the ranks at first grade. So he's an experienced player now. He's playing his eighth or ninth season in NRL. It was just fantastic. Very happy for South Sydney. I'll touch on the Roosters. Tedesco was magnificent. I thought Daly Cherry Evans was the standout player for the Roosters, as hard as it is for me to admit that. His kicking game was sensational. And yes, technically, the ref got it wrong. He kicked it out on the full, but he didn't really. The Roosters player touched it. It went into touch. I thought Nafahu White was good. Lindsay Collins was really strong in this game. I thought his presence was really shown throughout the game. Credit to the Roosters. They were absolutely fantastic in this game. I thought Sam Walker and Daly Cherry Evans, the kicking game from both players were great. And you saw the first glimpses of connection in attack, and combining quickly. Cherry Evans and Tedesco. They've played together before for the Australian Kangaroos a few years back. So they have played together, but they really felt like they were combining. Yeah, that's dangerous for the competition. I know we're talking about Penrith and probably going to win the comp again, but you look at that and the fact that they've combined so quickly. They were shocking last week against the Warriors, but the way in which they were able to combine in this game, I thought the forward pack in this game was sensational. It was absolutely fantastic. Let's go to the next game. The Tigers, 44 points to the Cowboys, 16. Great win to the West Tigers. They were sensational in this game. Congratulations to them. Jerome Luai, best game I've seen him playing Tigers colours. He was absolutely sensational. Really, really happy for Luai. Coruscant was outstanding. Adam Dewey was great in that 7 jersey. His goal kicking was great as well. Jareen Buller was sensational. The Tigers played like a team that were just happy, and they look like. If you ever go to Fiji and you play touch footy against Fijians, They're just so happy and laughing the whole time, and just because they know they're better than us. There's white Australians going to Fiji trying to take on Fiji at the Warwick Hotel on the beach there. I just remember Dad and I getting carved up by these Fijians. It was great. It was so much fun. Like I'm just going, how did you do that? Like, but they were having the time of their lives. And you just look at the Tigers. You've got Fijians in this game. Tino Taruva, Jareen Buller, like there were players in this. They were just laughing the whole game. They were having so much fun, and they were soaking up the atmosphere. They were soaking up the experience, and it was absolutely fantastic to watch. It was a great honour and a privilege to sit there and watch the Tigers, who have struggled for many, many, many years, to sit there and watch them enjoy their football, have a good time in front of their sold out crowd at Leichhardt Oval. What an experience that would have been for the Tigers fans that travelled to the game, even Tigers fans that stayed home, watched it on TV. I mean, you take a win any day of the week. And congratulations to them. They were sensational. But to be at Leichhardt Oval that day, I reckon, would have been extremely special. Um, yeah, I thought Alex Twell was really good in this game, and I don't think he'll get the mention, the credit he deserves out of this game. He was elite. Just his carries and his experience, and then he was playing as a lock forward, but as a front rower at the same time. He just took it up. No errors. He just you can just tell he was a man that just is now a leader. He's a real leader of this side. He's been there longer than any other player in the side. I think Adam Dewey came in 2020 to the Tigers, but 12's been around since 2017, 2018. I thought he was fantastic in this game. Almost scored his third try of the career as well. Let's touch on the Cowboys. Scott Drinkwater, fuck. He's had a couple of shockers now, hasn't he? Against Newcastle and against the Cowboys. That intercept pass he threw. Yeah, I don't know. I'm questioning whether or not that wouldn't surprise me if they make some changes in terms of the positions. Wondering if Scott Drinkwater is better to move into that sixth role, and then they move Jackson Purdue to fullback, because when Purdue played a bit of fullback in that game against Newcastle in Vegas, all of a sudden their attack looked the best it had looked in that 15-minute period in the last two matches. Uh, Purdue had his hands on the football a lot more. I wouldn't get rid of Clifford at the moment. I think you've got to stick with that combination for now. But honestly, I think you've got to give the Tigers a big rap. I thought the Tigers defensively were great as well. I'd like to see Ruben Cotter more involved. Tamalolo was good. He was really good in this game. Two great games from Jason Tamalolo. Um, yeah, Braden Burns was good. He scored a nice try there, which was the third try and the final try that the Cowboys scored on that right edge on the wing. Yeah, look, Drinkwater had some nice moments, but defensively he's really struggling now. I feel like he's lost a yard or two in speed, which makes me question whether or not he should stay in that fullback role. Um, the Cowboys were my smoky to make the eight in season 2026, and I'm starting to quickly believe how wrong I was. I think I tell you what, they're in a lot of strife. The Cowboys. That was poor. There were times in that game where they genuinely really struggled. Let's go to the next game. The Dragons lost to the Melbourne Storm. 46 Melbourne, Dragons 20. Suafalogo. We spoke on the podcast over the summer about how by the end of this year, everyone will know his name, and everyone will know that he is a superstar of this game. That's what we're seeing at the moment. It's only round two, but we're seeing a guy with individual talent. We're seeing a guy that can do something out of nothing. But what I want to see more of Suafalongo is, sure, he scored 3 tries in the final, 15, 20 minutes of this game. Pretty much won the game for Melbourne off his individual talent. But what I want to see more of is probably he needs to be better defensively. Thought he was a lot stronger defensively in this game, but he needs to work on his craft defensively. He needs to. Um, there were good couple of tackles he made round the legs when Gutherson made a line break or whatnot. But I'm talking about goal line defence. I'm wondering if he's aware of the position he needs to be in at certain points. So when there's a grubber kick in, he needs to be there. He needs to be the first one to get to the ball. If it rolls into the in goal area, he needs to be the first one to get it or save a try. Sometimes I feel like he's not sure whether to go this way or that way, and he's second guessing himself in defence. In attack, he was brilliant, but in defence, you could just see through his movements behind the try line that he is second guessing himself of where to be. Now, what? He's played 22, 23 first grade games in the NRL. So he's very inexperienced, but I genuinely believe from the halfway mark onwards in this season, his defence will significantly improve. Craig Bellamy spoke about before the game last week against the Parramatta Eels on Thursday Night Football. He spoke about his fitness and how it was a concern. He goes, he'll get the first shot at fullback, but his fitness, he's worked really hard on his fitness for the first time, he said, in his preseason at Melbourne. And he looks fit. He looks fit. He looks strong. He looks elite. But defensively, he needs to back himself a bit more. I genuinely believe that. We will look at Farlogo's game as an incredible game, but defensively at times, he was good. I'd give him an 8 out of 10 in this game. But you've got to just... I want him to make a decision in defence of not second guess yourself with, 3 seconds to go until you've got to be there. Either get there, make the decision, or not. Because if you're going to second guess yourself, you're going to delay time and delay getting yourself to get there. I know that sounds harsh, guys, but just watching Farlogo over the last few years since he's made his debut, defensively, he can make some poor decisions. He was better in this game, but still, I just want him to back himself. I want him to actually understand how good he is as a footballer. And once he understands that, then you'll see an elite defender as well as an elite attacker. The Dragons, look, they had a go in this game. I can't criticise the Dragons overly too much. Out of all, I've got it highlighted here, out of all the sides that lost, if I'm a Dragons fan, you still take plenty out of it. They were in position to win the game. I thought Atkinson had a great game of football. Really, really strong. Gutherson was outstanding. Damien Cook did his job. Ryan Couchman especially was really good on that edge. Luciano Leilua, that try to Moses Suli to Valentine Holmes, who just hit the hole. Fantastic. He's a good hole runner, good ball runner, Valentine Holmes, and a great goal kicker as well. I just think they're lacking something there. The Dragons, I think they're lacking a key on Kalamatangi. What a difference he'll make to the side in 2027. But we spoke about the Dragons before the season started, they're just not in my top 8 this year, unfortunately. I just think Atkinson had a go. Flanagan did okay. I don't know. I think Christian Tuipulotu was really strong in this game, the winger for the Dragons, Mr. Moneyman. I thought his kick returns were strong. He did well to score a try. I don't know. I felt the Dragons had a real go, and I think with the squad that they've got and the lack of experience in certain areas, Hamish Stewart was great when he came on. Like I don't know. I just can't feel too disappointed if I'm a Dragons fan. Like you look at the team on paper, and it's not one of the better sides on paper of the year. But what they're dishing up, considering, they're showing a lot of effort. They're showing a lot of fight and character. Let me know if you disagree in the comments. But in my opinion, I think they're showing some resilience in a lot of key areas within the side. It's almost like they know they're not good enough at the moment, but there's real confidence that they can do something throughout the year to make their fans proud of them at the end of the year. And sure, they allowed Melbourne to score 46 points against them. Defensively, that's not good enough, but there are moments in this game where I think they'll be very happy with, highlighting and gain a lot of confidence going into the season, the seasons ahead and the weekend next week. Let's touch on the Dragons. 26 points defeating the Sharks, 6. Now I tipped Roosters to beat South. We got that right. Warriors to beat Raiders, right. Tigers to beat Cowboys, correct. Dragons to beat Melbourne, we tipped Melbourne. Panthers to beat Sharks, we tipped Panthers. Manly to beat Newcastle, I tipped Manly. Dolphins to beat Titans, I tipped Dolphins. So we got 6 out of 8 this week. Of just adding that up. Yep. All right. So Panthers and the Sharks. Credit to Nathan Cleary. Fuck, he was good. So good. Uh, to think that Penrith Panthers have only look at all these sides that have let points in. Manly let Newcastle 36 points. Broncos allowed 40 points to get scored against them. The Raiders allowed 40 points to get scored against them. The Cowboys allowed Tigers to score 44 points against them. The Dragons allowed Storm to score 46 points against them. And the Dragons have only allowed 6 points to be scored against them in 2 games. The Penrith Panthers have. That is significant. That is fucking incredible premiership winning defense. Now to do this without Liam Martin is unbelievable. What Liam Martin adds to that defense is aggression, his experience now. He knows how to lift the players around him. I thought Isaiah Papali'i was really strong starting as an edge forward for Penrith in this game. I thought they were magnificent. Dylan Edwards was really strong. He simplified his game this week. He was really great last week. Probably their best player last week for the Panthers. But I thought he was really, really strong in this game. Congratulations to Dylan Edwards. Absolutely fantastic. Lindsay Smith was great. I thought Mitch Kenny had one of the better games of his career. They just played like a side that was just a class above. Cronulla, man. Cronulla reminded me of Manly in 2021. I remember Ryan Girdler coming on Triple M Saturday Scrum on the podcast back then, and he said, Manly are flat track bullies. And I remember I spoke to my mate Nathan on the phone a day after, and he said, "What do you think about that?" And I said, "Well, he's not wrong. We can beat any side on our day, but we're beating the sides that probably don't have a chance of winning the comp. We couldn't beat Penrith that year. We couldn't beat Melbourne. They were beating sides, but when it came to that class above, were Manly able to go to another level to get the job done? Well, it was shown that they did an amazing job to get to a prelim in 2021 on the back of Turbo's form, and all the players in that Manly squad had lifted. The game had gone to another level. But the Sharks remind me of Manly in 2021, where they will bully teams. They will do some sensational things this year. But when you get to a prelim or a grand final, are you going to win when it matters? Well, early evidence would suggest not. And I don't know what they're missing, Cronulla. I mean, Will Kennedy cops a lot of slack. For me, he's been one of their better players the last couple of weeks. Nico Hines didn't overly do much in this game. He needed to offer more. Fanua Blake was strong. I don't know what they're missing because they've got a fucking great roster. They've got a great roster. I understand Ronaldo Mulatalo's out for the majority of the year, but Sam Stonestreet's a good player. They've got so much versatility in their side. They should be winning these kind of games now. They need to start beating Penrith. They need to start beating Melbourne. They need to start beating Brisbane, which at the moment they certainly could. But they need to beat the better sort of performing clubs at the moment to be taken seriously. And I thought it was a disappointing result. Considering Penrith have had a poor record at Bathurst over the years, I think Cronulla, I just expected more. I expected Penrith to win, but I expected more out of Cronulla. Penrith absolutely suffocated them. I don't think I'd seen faster defensive line speed in my years of watching football. I couldn't believe how together they were with their line speed, suffocating the attack. The Cronulla attack was overwhelmed, extremely overwhelmed, and they cracked under pressure. Credit to Penrith. We know what we're going to get from them. I had the grand final, Melbourne winning the comp over Canterbury. Watching Penrith now, I mean, I don't know how they don't make a grand final. Like that, they are just I know it's round two, but they are absolutely dominating. Congratulations to Penrith. 2 wins from two to start their season, and especially after last year's poor start, they'll be very happy with that. But most importantly, they'll be happy with their defence. When I read out the teams there of the the scoreboards, players allowing 36-40. Some teams have allowed 70 to 80 points scored against them in 2 weeks. Penrith have only allowed 6. So really phenomenal effort there from the Penrith Panthers. Let's go to the next game. Manly and Knights. I might finish with that game. Let's go Dolphins Titans. Look, Titans will win a lot of games this year. I'm thinking possibly 10. Like, I know that's not a lot, but respectfully, for the Titans, it's probably a lot. Since 2007, when they entered the competition, you'd probably take 10 wins to start the rebuild with Hannay. I don't think they'll make the 8 at all, but they showed a lot of resilience, and they were up 14-0. They should win that game. They were in a position to win that game, and they didn't. You've got to be mindful that Jaden Campbell was out of this game. So they really missed him in this game. I think if Jaden Campbell's playing, they win. I think the Dolphins, tell you what, they were lucky to win this. I know that sounds harsh to the Dolphins, but I don't think I'd ever seen Christian Wolf so disappointed or disgusted with the performance. They showed him in the second half with about 20 minutes to go and looked genuinely concerned of the way they were playing, even though they were coming back. Their defence was, they only let 14 points scored against them, but I thought their defence was really average in that first half. But they found a way to get it done, and the good sides do that, and they won 18 points to 14. I don't know. Max Plath played a lot of dummy half, which was great to see him play back in the NRL. He had an injury late last year and missed last week, of course. So congratulations to the Dolphins. They got the job done, but huge, some concerning signs, to be completely honest with you. They just need to simplify their game. Do what Brisbane need to do. Simplify your game, fix up your errors. And I guarantee you, if the Dolphins go into a game with a 90% completion rate, then they probably win the game. They need to fix up their errors and just play simple football. For the Gold Coast Titans, I think Cooper Bye should be starting as the lock forward. I think he comes on too late, because when he comes on, the difference that makes in the game. If I'm a Titans fan and Cooper Bye comes on the field, I feel more confident. Philip Sami, look, he had a poor pass thrown to him when the Titans were trying to come back and win the game. And he dropped the ball, and I just think, Philip Sami, for me, I wondered why they re-signed him. I know that sounds harsh, but fuck, he's got an error in him, and defensively he can be quite poor. I don't know. Gold Coast, they need to win these games. They really need to win these kind of games. Cooper Bye, for me, should be starting in that 13 jersey. Move Chris Randall back to the bench, possibly. Bo Firma was really strong in this game. I thought he was one of their better players. Keanu Kinney was good. He got injured, of course, but I'm not sure if he's having scans or not, but doesn't look overly too serious. Tino was strong, but defensively they need to improve in that area. The left and the right hand edge defense for the Gold Coast Titans is a huge concern. The centres and wingers need to communicate, and there's a real lack of experience in their centres and wing at the moment. I can't remember if the Titans winger last week who made his debut, but it's something he really needs to work on quickly, because that will be a target for opposition sides when they do their homework to really jam in those defenders and create space on the outside in attack for the teams that come up against the Gold Coast Titans. So Dolphins winning that 18-14. Tom Gilbert was strong when he played, but a couple of errors. But at the end of the day, I thought the Dolphins were, they're doing this without Jeremy Marshall-King. Selwyn Cobbo, he was strong when he played, made a crucial error with about 10 minutes to go when the Titans picked up the ball and they looked like they were going to score. He needs to fix up those errors, Selwyn Cobbo, but overall I thought he had a pretty good game. Let's go to Manly and Newcastle. I thought I'd finish on this game. Yeah. Uh, I can't remember the last time I watched a Manly side um, play where there's a clear lack of identity. There's a clear lack of not understanding, who they're playing for, who they're representing. They look like a clueless side with respect, with a clueless coach. Um, I, I, I can't understand what they're doing. Um, I didn't have Manly making the 8 this year. In fact, I had them doing really poorly this year, but I expected better than that. Um, it was fucking disgraceful. It was disgraceful. Um, and I feel like I can criticize them because they're such a big part of my life, the Manly Sea Eagles and the club. And I feel like I can sit here and criticize them when they need to be criticized because I don't pretend I'm some fucking elite footballer that did well and I think if you're a fan and you die for the club, then I think you're entitled to share your opinions if you feel like it's needed. And I feel like my opinions need to be heard because now that I do a podcast, I feel like I may as well do it. But they they were disappointing. They're playing like a team that aren't playing for each other. They're not playing for their coach, and they're not representing every single Manly player that has worn the jersey since 1947. Um, I can handle losses. I can actually handle losses, right? Um, but as I said last week, I can't handle a side that gives up, that wears that Manly symbol and gives up. I can't handle it. And, we saw them a couple of times last week against Canberra give up. But in this game, when I consistently saw players give up, um, I'm embarrassed. I'm disgusted. Uh, the the coach's selections. Garrick, what the fuck is he doing in the centres? Moving to the wing. I haven't got a Manly lineup right now, but like I'm off the top of my head. This would be my Manly team for next week. Keep Turbo at fullback. Garrick back to the wing. Goodbye, Jason Saab. Goodbye. Do a player swap. I don't give a fuck. He can go. I'm sick of it. Absolutely fucking sick of it. Defensively poor. It's almost like he's not. I've got to be careful what I say here. Just relies on his speed. I don't know. We've got Clayton Faulolo, Navrat Willett. Put one of them in. Lehigh Hopewadi needs to be in the centres. Number 3, Hopewadi. 4, Tolu Kola. Or, vice versa. I think Cola's at 3 at the moment. Joey Walsh can go 6. Fogarty 7. Talk about Fogarty being dropped is absolute bullshit. Goodbye, Brooks. Now, 8, Jake Trbojevic. Back to front row for Jake. He can play up to 50 minutes at front row. 9, Jake Simpkin. 10, Taniela Paseka. 11, Haumole Olakuatu. Goodbye, Burbo. Your defence ain't good enough anymore, brother. Ethan Bullimore, second row. Ethan Bullimore can hit a hole perfectly. In round 1, 2022, it was Ethan Bullimore's first game for the Manly Sea Eagles against the Penrith Panthers. And that was under Des Hasler that year to start the season there. And Kieran Foran put Bullimore through a beautiful hole. And Bullimore had the 12 on his back. And there was just something about the number 12 on the back of Ethan Bullimore that I loved. Defensively, really strong. In attack, offers a lot. Sure, you won't get that momentum off the bench, but he needs to be starting for Manly. He has earned his fucking spot to start for the Sea Eagles. 13, Kobe Hetherington. Why is Kobe Hetherington at prop and Jake's at lock? Fuck me dead. put Hetherington at 13 and play him for 80 minutes. And that he's 25, 26 years old. He can handle 80 minutes. He's a premiership winner after last year. His final series was absolutely fantastic. At 14, what do? Zach Docker Clay, like Simone Laffey needs to come into this side. He needs to come into this side. He needs to be off the bench to make his NRL debut next week. Oh, they got the bye, but the following week against the Roosters. Laffey, get him in. Now, I don't... This bullshit about players not being ready for first grade, I don't buy it. On Tinny Large, get him in as the 18th or 19th. He may not play much football this year, but if there's an injury in the halves, I want him to be the backup. I don't want Brandon Wakeham to come on. No disrespect for Brandon Wakeham, but he's not a first grade footballer. When he came on yesterday, he offered nothing in attack, and Newcastle shifted their energy in attack to roll down the middle, and that's exactly what they did. They exploited that middle part of the field for Manly. They congratulations to Newcastle. They noticed Wakeham coming on, noticed he hadn't played overly much first grade football, and they just went up through the middle. Wakeham was exhausted and defensively couldn't keep up. Now, I get it, right? People might be listening to this podcast going, fuck, you're going a bit heavy. Well, I am. I am going heavy. I look at Manly. From 2005 to 2014, we made the finals every fucking year. And that is what I'm proud of. 2015, we finished 9th. 2016, we don't make the finals. 2017, we make the finals. We get knocked out week 1 against Penrith. 2018, we come second last under Trent Barrett. He fucks off. Des Hasler comes 2019, we make the finals. 2020, we don't. 2021, we make a prelim. 2022, we don't. 2023, we don't. 2024, we make second week of the finals. 25, we don't. And 26, we won't. So that to me is a fucking disgrace. What's that? Three final series in 10 years for this club? For the Manly Sea Eagles. Fuck me. As I mentioned, as a fan, I can handle losses, but I cannot handle. I can't handle what I saw yesterday. I saw a team that are fucking embarrassing themselves, embarrassing the symbol on that jersey, embarrassing the supporters, and embarrassing every single player that has put on a jersey since 1947 and played for the club. My personal opinion is if I was head coach of the Manly Sea Eagles, honestly, it sounds fucking ridiculous. It's probably shocking advice and why I'm not a coach or ever would coach, but I'd get them pissed. Get drunk. Bond. Fucking have a good time. Fuck football off. Just stop thinking about football. For 3 days, stop thinking about it and just relax, bond, go to fucking Central Coast and get an Airbnb for a day or two and just kick a footy near the beach and relax, have a few beers, rebond, just chill the fuck out. Reconnect and become a happy football team again. Because they're not doing that. They're playing like they don't want to fucking be out there. The jersey grabbing bullshit. Fuck me. What I'll say about Newcastle is well done. Congratulations to the Newcastle Knights. As I said, I can handle Manly losing, but I can also, you got to give credit to where it's due. And a lot of the attention, I've just spoken about it for fucking 10 minutes. A lot of attention in this game, all I've heard is how poor Manly have been, which I can understand. But let's give Newcastle the credit they fucking deserve. They have won 2 from 2. The Wooden Spooners. Kalen Ponga goes down in the first half, does his hamstring. Dylan Brown goes down in the first half, does his MCL, and yet they dominate possession. They dominate the game. They dominate defensively. They were aggressive. Leaders such as Dane Gagai, just Tyson Frizzell, they stood up and they led by example. And they did all this without, I thought Sandon Smith was absolutely sensational in that number 6 jersey. Absolutely dominated that second half, conducted their attack really well. I think I want to hear more from this week onwards. You know, I can understand Manly copying it, but let's fucking give Newcastle the credit they need and the credit they deserve. That was a terrific performance. And I don't want, it's not fair for Newcastle fans to hear that, yeah, but Manly was so bad. No, Newcastle did what they did without $2.5 million on the fucking sideline ruled out of that game. Congratulations to the Newcastle Knights and Justin Holbrook. They look like a happy team. They're playing for each other and they're representing every single player that's worn the jersey since, I'm going to say 1988 they came into the competition. Please let me know if I'm wrong. But they played for their past. They represented their jersey with passion and pride, and they represented their people at the Fortress Brookvale. Credit to them. Fucking credit to him. Now, Seabold knows he'll go. I saw that press conference this morning when I was having my breakfast. He knows he's gone. He knows he's gone. First press conference where I really showed could see the emotion in his face. He knows he's under immense pressure. Yeah. I don't have Manly getting the wooden spoon. But, I think that, anywhere from 13th, 15th, 16th. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Just genuinely disappointed. Just genuinely disappointed. I can't remember seeing a side like that. I don't know. The more I talk about it, the more I'll just ramble on and just, I don't give a fuck if you get beaten by 20, 30 points. Play for the jersey. If you don't play for the jersey, don't be there. Anyway. Fucking hell. I get angry. That's the round 2 review. Sorry to be negative, Manly fans, the last 10 minutes, but I'm not going to bullshit on this podcast, and I might come across harsh or disrespectful, and if I offend anybody, I sincerely apologise. But I don't want to bullshit on this podcast. I don't want there to be any agendas. I'm going to call it for as it is. And I'm going to stand by my, I don't come on to try and offend any players or disrespect anyone or whatnot, but part of this Rugby League Forecast podcast is to come on and talk on behalf of fans and supporters and give teams raps when they deserve it, such as Newcastle. Trey Mooney was incredible. Phoenix Crossland was fantastic. They played for each other. Congratulations to them. Greg Marzu was unbelievable. Dominic Young's defence was a lot better in this game. They did what they needed to do. Fletcher Hunt comes on and plays fullback. What a good player he is. Fuck, he's a good player. Yeah, sounds crazy because Manly lost, but I love the Knights. Congratulations to them. They outsmarted Manly, and they played some good bloody football, which you need to appreciate. So that's the round 2 review, the Rugby League Forecast podcast. If you enjoy what you're hearing, probably Manly fans won't want to subscribe now. I apologise, but I do, but I don't. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow me on the Spotify. That's Rugby League Forecast Podcast. That is Rugby League Forecast Podcast. My name is Connor Moran, and that is round 2 of the National Rugby League 2026 done and dusted.